In this video, we will take a look at Chapter 8, which is on page 220, and once again, we will skip to the highlighted areas where the actual activities will take place. So therefore, I'm going to move forward to page 221, where we have the first box, which has the objective of to record the checks written to make payment on Bank of Florida. Number 1, restore the Wild Waters Chapter 8. So that, of course, will be our first challenge, and once again, we are working on Wild Waters, but make sure you have the updated file. We need to get this file restored and not use the previous Wild Water files. So we could use the CD to do that, as they suggest, but we have also uploaded these to Moodle Rooms, and that is where I will go to take a look at this. So if we go to Moodle Rooms, we have in week 3 our data files here. I'm going to open this up. Can't open the file, but what we can do is save it. That's what we need to do. So we're going to go to the Chapter 8, not 8A. I'm looking at Chapter 8 at this time, and then your homework at the end will be 8A. And so I'm going to select this item. This is going to open up. Once again, I'm using Google Chrome, so if you're using either Internet Explorer or any other browser, it may look different than this, but our objective is to not open it, but to save it. So if I click on this here, it says we can't open this file because I can't do that. We're going to say OK, and then if I go over here to the show updated files, then I can then see which files are open. So let me do that one more time right here. If I click the show, then here's the files that we have. I need to bring this onto my desktop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap this to the left. I'm going to pull this down and minimize everything here. This is where I want to put it within my AC1320 file. So I'm going to open that up. We will then go into the backup section because this is a backup file. I'm going to snap this then on this side and then just drag this in there. So we want I'm looking for the Chapter 8 right here, so I'm going to take that, drag it in here, and there it is, and notice it's a backup file. So the next step is to restore that to our data files. In order to do that, we first open the program. So I'm going to open the program here and just double click on QuickBooks 2013 and open this program. I'm going to install later. And it may open to a previous file. Mine is going to. It's going to open to the Chapter 7 file. Going to remind me later on this. Still got 9 days. So it's open to Chapter 7. And of course, we want to open and restore the Chapter 8 at this time. So even though it's a Wild Water file, make sure that you restore the new one because the data will be slightly different. Now notice that you do not need to actually close this file to open the new file, because in the process of opening the new file it will close this file. So if you go to the File tab at top and we just go to open or from an existing company, new company from existing company, or I'm sorry, open or restore, then it'll open the company right here. So we're going to go to open or restore, and then we're not going to select the first one. We need to restore the backup. So we need to unzip and restore. So we need to select the second item here. And then we'll select next to go into the next. It is going to be a local backup. So we're going to hit next in that item. And then once again, if you had the CD, you could put the CD in and look for it within the CD as well. We just put the backup file in from Moodle Rooms. Therefore, I'm going to look for it on the desktop. We're going to go into our file, the AC1320. And look at the backup files located here, and then make sure you pick up the Wild Water Sports Chapter 8. That's the one we want. I'm going to say next, and then it's going to ask us where we want to put it to. It's currently going to the same file. Notice you can't see anything in there because everything that is in there is a backup file, and we are now going to restore as not a backup file, a write file. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to scroll down and go into 1320 again and put that into the data files, and then allow that to save in that location. May take a little bit for this to restore. Once that does restore, we should have Wild Water Sports Chapter 8, Chapter 8 being the key up here, and we should be ready to go. Then oftentimes, or usually, I would like to go to the View tab, and I'd like to see the Open Windows icon so that I can see this Open Windows bar on this side. Notice that this icon here, I usually like to see full screen, so I'm going to make that the full screen. And then let's go to the book and see what we have. Alright, so we're now on page 221, number 2. It says click the right check icon from the banking section on the home page. The right check window appears with your current system date and with the check number 1029 ready for entry. The bank provided the loan amortization table before. So here's an amortization table. Basically, we took a loan out for $250,000. We're going to make payments on that loan. It looks like periodically. It looks like it may be monthly here. And the payments will be the same, but of course the interest will go down as we pay it. This is kind of like a mortgage type of loan setup whereby we have the same payments, but as the loan reduces, the interest, the rent on the loan will go down because of course as we pay it off, we are now borrowing less. So the first payment we have, this is the same payment, but we have $1,041 of interest, basically rent on the money, and then that means the principal is only going to go down by $3,600. So the principal went down by the $3,600. On the second payment, now we're only borrowing off of this $246. Therefore, even though we're making the same payment, the rent on the loan amount, the interest, is less because the balance is less, the principal is less. So therefore, more of that payment is going to principal on payment 2 than in payment 1, and that trend will of course continue as we go through the payments. This is called an amortization schedule. Alright, so enter the information for the check shown in figure 8.1. So once we make this first payment, of course, we're going to write a check, meaning we're going to write a check for that amount, but then there's going to have to be 2 other accounts that we hit. So we're going to credit this amount by writing the check, then we're going to debit interest expense for the amount of the rent, basically the expense of borrowing the money, and then we're going to reduce the loan amount by the principal, this amount here, which will reduce the liability. That's us paying off the liability. So even though we're paying off the loan for $4,000, we're really only paying off the balance of $3,000 because we had to borrow and therefore rent, called interest on the money we borrowed, being an expense of $1,041. So let's see what this will look like. Here's a check. We want a check that basically looks like this. So let's do that. We're in the home page. If you're not there, you can hit the home button up here. I'm going to go over to write checks right here, like so. And here's the check. It's coming out of the Bank of Florida. That is correct. That's the correct check number according to the book. And the date that we want is 03/01/13, and we're going to write it to the Bank of Florida. The amount is going to be for 4717.81. The amount of all of our checks will be the same. All of our payments will be the same on this one. And we are in the expense item column, not the items tab. So we're in the expense tab. We're going to have to put 2 different accounts in this area. So we're going to have 2 different accounts. And the first one we'll call interest expense, which we will get from the amortization table. And that was only 1041.57. The difference, and notice when I hit tab, QuickBooks will try to give me that difference. There it is. This plus this adds up to that. And the difference, of course, will be the reduction in the loan payable, the principal. And so we're going to hit tab. And then number 4 says hit save and new. And then number 5 says using the amortization schedule, enter information for check number 1030 on the same date to record the second payment using the interest expense and principal provided. So then we're going to make another check that looks like this. Same idea, except that we're on the second payment on the principal. Therefore, the interest and principal will be slightly different. So we will hit save and new on this one. And now we're going to enter the second check that is shown on page 222. And that's check number is correct. And it has the same date. We're going to pay it to the same Bank of Florida. And it is for the same amount, 4717.81. And this time we still are going to write it to interest expense, but the amount has changed slightly to 2026 or 1026.35. Therefore, the principal, which will calculate automatically when I tab through this, is this amount, and that is what is going to reduce the loan payment. All right, number 6 on page 222 says save and close, so I can do that. If I take a look at the trial balance, you don't have to do this, but let's take a look at a trial balance for 0101 to 12/31/13. And of course now what we're saying is that if we took a look at the loan balance here, we've now reduced the loan balance by those two amounts. If we double clicked on it, there's the check we just made. This is the transaction. Back to the home page, back to the book, turning the page to 223. New objective of to record the electronic transfer of funds and record payment on a loan. Number 1, click the chart of accounts icon in the company section on the home page. Double click the short-term investment to open the short-term investment. Type 3613 on the date section of the account register and leave the number field blank. Type Bank of Florida in the payee section. Type 300,000 in the payment section. Select Bank of Florida account section of the account register. Click record. Alright, let's do all that at one time. So we will go back to our QuickBooks section here. We're going to go to the chart of accounts in the home page. We could go here to the chart of accounts. We could also go to the lists up top, and chart of accounts is the first list. That's how I prefer to go there. And then we want to double click the short-term investments. So if we double click on this account, we'll see a register type account. And we could do this to any type of account. So if we didn't know the debits and credits, we could think of it as, does the account go up or down, and then post the other side to the account. So let me show you what we mean. I'm going to double click on this account and we see a register. We could do this to any account and we'd see a similar register to a check register. And then we're going to type in the date, and I'm going to increase it to the 6th. Okay, date section, account register, leave the number field blank, so I'm just going to delete this number. We don't need a number there. And then type Bank of Florida in the payee section. So it's Bank of Florida. Going to hit tab. And then number 5 says type 300,000 in the payment section. So we are in the payment section, which is basically the decrease section, 300,000. So of course what's that going to do is it's going to reduce this balance here. Now we need a debit and a credit. We're not thinking about debits and credits. We're just thinking, well, if you hit one account, I know some other account has to be hit the other way with a debit and a credit. But in this case, we just know that this account is going down. That doesn't mean another account is going up. What it really means is this account is being credited because it's an asset, which means we have to debit something else. And so all we have to do is name the other account, and it'll do whatever it needs to do to the other account. And the other account is going to be Bank of Florida, our checking account. So it's coming out of this account going into the checking account. And then if we hit record or we just hit enter, there's nothing here until we hit enter record, and then it'll record the transaction. So if we hit record, it has to be on the second line, that being entered, before we can really move forward. And then it says, number 8 says now, close the short-term investment window, close the chart of accounts, and then click the write checks icon in the banking section of the home page. Let's do that. So I'm going to close this with the little x, not the x up here. I'm going to close this with the little x. And then it said click the write checks icon. So in the banking section here, we want to write checks. And let's move on to the next page. We are now on page 224. And number 11 says, enter the information for the check shown on figure 8.5. So we're going to enter this check. Hopefully your book is a little bit more simple to read than this. I will go through it here. And it's the Bank of Florida, of course. The balance is correct. As of 3/6, we're going to pay to the Bank of Florida once again, and the amount will be 387,690.58. Tab. It's in the expense column, not the item column. And there's going to be some interest expense we're paying off, which is 3890.58. Tab. The difference gets put in there automatically because this plus this has to add up to that. And it looks like we're paying off the loan. So then we're going to put the loan payable, which is the difference there. And then it says to save and close. So I'm going to save and close this. Looking at the trial balance, we can see what happened. Our loan balance should have gone way down because we just went from 676 that we owed. We just paid off this giant amount here, meaning that now we only owe 292. And of course, that also has a large effect on our bank account. So we moved the money out of our investment account into our checking account so that we can write this large check to pay off the loan. So we moved this money in from our investment account, then paid off the large loan balance here. Alright, let's see what else we have. The bottom of page 224 says to record short-term investment activities. So click the chart of accounts icon in the company section on the home page. So back to the home page over here. I'm in my open items window. You can be there by selecting the view tab and having that open here, or you can click the little house indicating home page. We want to go to the chart of accounts. That's in the company section, chart of accounts here. I also like to do it by going from the list icon to the chart of accounts, which is our most important list. And notice it's in order by type: assets, liabilities, owner's equity, income, and then expense. A little bit more specific in that it's bank accounts, receivables, accounts, other current assets. Those are all assets. Then credit cards are liabilities, accounts payables liability, other current liabilities, equity, income, expenses. On to page 225. Says double click the short-term investment to open the short-term investment. Number 3 says type 3913 in the date section of the account register and leave the number field blank. Number 4 says type E-Trade in the payee section. Type 3000 in the deposit section of the account register. Click add new in the account section of the register. Create a new other income type account with the name other income in the account section of the register. Save and close and record. Alright, let's see if we can do number 2 through 7 like so. So we want to go back up here and we're going to double click on the short-term investments. So we're going to double click on that, gives us a register like so. Number 2 said to go to the 9th, so I'm going to hit the plus arrow a few times to bring that up to the 9th. Said we didn't want anything in the number section, so I'll delete that number 1 right there. Number 4 says we're going to type in E-Trade. E-Trade, of course, would be something, when I see E-Trade, I think of stocks and bonds, so we're dealing with basically an investment type of account here, most likely. Number 5 says type 3000 in the deposit section. So now we put 3000 back in to our investment into E-Trade, basically increasing that amount. Number 6 says add new in the account. So if we hit the drop down and we go all the way to the top, notice the scroll bar is at the bottom. We're going to scroll all the way up to the top and we're going to go to add new right there. Add new in the section, create a new other income type of account. So notice it's in expenses. That's the default. We don't want it to be in expenses. We're going to hit the drop down and we're going to look for other income. Other income type of account. We're going to scroll down here and call that just other income. Very generic name. Other income in the accounts section and then hit save and close. Okay, and then record that. Now, if we are in our investment account and we had other income increasing our investment account, we are probably safe to assume that that other income is probably dividends or interest income. So, or it could be capital gain income. So it's some kind of income on our investment account, when we put money into stocks or bonds or savings accounts, which may be the E-Trade type of accounts we would put them in, then you would think the income that we would be generating would be either interest or dividends or perhaps capital gains. So let's see what we have down here. Number 8 says close the short-term investment window. Number 9 says close the chart of accounts windows. Alright, so I'm going to hit the little X, not the X at the top here. Going to hit the little X, not the X at the top. Brings us back to the home page. On to the next page, being page 226, where we have a new box and a new objective, that objective being to record the purchase orders for the month of March. So click the purchase order icon from the vendor section on the home page. Use QuickBooks Account Help to add a terms field to the customized purchase window. Okay, enter purchase order information from figure 8.7. Be sure to provide address terms information for Malibu. Okay, so now we're going to go to the purchase order. For on the home page, we're going to go to the purchase order up top. So we're going to select purchase order. Alright, so they would like us to add terms to this. So the way to add terms, if you're on the main tab, we want to go to the formatting tab, which is the second tab here. And then we will select the customized data layout. So we want to hit this customized data layout. And then you'll see what is checked off here. And if we go down here to terms, I'm going to add this. I'm going to add to the screen. And I'm just going to say, don't show me that. And then I'm also going to add it here. And then it puts this terms box here. So then that added the terms field, which should be OK now. So we're going to say OK and scroll through the rest of this. So number 2 says enter the purchase order on figure 8.7. So let's just go through here and enter this information as given on the purchase order. So it's Malibu Sports, who we will be purchasing from. Date of 3/9/4005. We should probably add an address of 1 Malibu Court. Alright, tab. The terms they want are net 30. Net 30. The items that we need are an MSLX. And we want 2 of those. Make sure you put 2 of those, which will bring the cost to $83.02. Alright, number 3 says save and new. Once we have that, so we're going to say save and new. And you have changed the address, and I'm going to say yes. And then let's go back to our book. We hit save and new, number 3. Number 4 says click yes to save updated address. We did that. Number 5 says create purchase order number 4006 to Teague Boat on 3/12, ordering a T22V and a T24, a new item with the description. So this will be a new item we'll have to add when we put that in there. Okay, so let's do that. So we'll go back over here. The next purchase order we're going to make, we're going to do number 5 here, is from Teague. And we're going to order a boat from Teague as of 3/12. So I'm going to change the date to 3/12. And they want the purchase order number is correct. So we are okay there. Purchase order. Alright, so the item that we want, ordering a T22V, that one's not a problem. We just have one of those that we will order. Doesn't say we're ordering it for any particular customer, so we are okay there. And then we also want a and I'm going to type in 24V, and we don't have one of those. So what we're going to do is type that in there, then hit tab. It will then ask us if we want to add it. We will say yes. We're going to add a new item, being an inventory item, so we're going to hit tab. And QuickBooks did not see it, so we're going to have to add it. And it is an inventory item, so that is correct. So we're going to hit tab. It's a T24V, and no part number. We're going to go down here to the description, which they say is the full description is a Teague 24 V. And the cost of it is, wow, 70,000. That's how much we pay for it. Cost of goods sold. I would assume this is Teague. And then we're going to sell it for 87.5. Tax will be there. And then, of course, it's merchandise, or what do we call it? Boat sales? Boat sales. That's the income account, boat sales. And that should be it. So I'm going to say OK. And the terms, they want net 30 once again. So that should be that one, I believe. And then we're going to hit Save and New and do this one more time. So we'll hit Save and New. And wait a sec. I'm going to cancel this. How many of those? We want one of those. So I'm going to hit one of those. And then that should do it. So I'm going to hit Save and New. Yes. And let's see what we have next. Number 6 says, create purchase order 4007 to MB Sports on 3/16/13, ordering 1 MB 220V. So this is a new vendor. So we started with just Malibu, and then we picked up Teague. So we started buying boats from Teague. Now we're going to buy boats from this MB Sports here. We're going to buy one of these MB 220Vs. This is going to be another new item. So we'll have to set this up. We're going to say we're buying it from this vendor. This is the boat name. Then we will enter the item. And it's for a customer. So this time we're actually going to apply it to the customer, which is Spirit Adventures here's. And we'll probably have to add them with the same terms. Be sure to place this customer's name in the customer text box as shown in 8.8. Okay, so we'll have the customer here. So this one should look like this. So let's do that. So the purchase order we can see in the window on 8.8 in this case. So we're ordering an MB Sports. It's the date of the 16th. And it's 4007. That looks good. Terms net 30 once again. And the description is going to be an MB 220V. Don't have that. Going to hit tab. We'll need to add it. So we're going to say QuickBooks did not see that. So we're going to have to add that here. It will be an inventory part. So we're good with that. That's the name. That's good. That's good. That's good. The description will be looks like the same thing. So I'm just going to say 220V. And the cost is 52,000, and it's always going to be from the vendor being MB Sports, and we will sell it for 65,000. The income account will be boat sales, and that should do that. So we're going to hit OK. And make sure you put in the customer now. We want one of those. And the customer, we're ordering this one specifically for the customer named Spirit Adventures, which is a new customer. So we're going to have to type in Spirit Adventures. And that's a new customer. So this customer came in. They said they want this boat from this vendor, MB Sports, and we said we don't usually do business with them, but we'll set it up for you. We don't think that's a problem. We're going to set up this customer. We're going to hit the full setup because we're going to put the address of the customer in here. So it is Spirit Adventures. That's who's buying from us. And we then go to MB Sports and order from them. And we could put the date of 03/16/13 here. I'm just going to put the same name here, and then I just want to put the date down here, and that's all we will do with this, which is 500 Butterfly Lake Road, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33308. Gonna actually put that on this side as well. And there we have it. Select OK. And we are good there. Number 7 on page 227 then says to save and close, which we will now do. Save and close. And yes. Alright, back to the book here. We are now on the second box on page 227, which has the objective of to record receipt of inventory and bill. So click the Receive Inventory icon from the Vendor section of the company. Select Receive Inventory Bill, select Malibu Boats. Number 4 says click Yes when asked if you want to receive against one or more of the open purchase orders, and then select the purchase order 4004. Okay, and it's going to look like the picture here. So let's do that first. So we have now put in a purchase order. What's going to happen, of course, is we put in a purchase order. A truck's going to come and show up with these boats, hopefully. And with the boats, we'll have a bill on it. Notice when we put the purchase order in, we didn't own the inventory, and therefore we don't owe anybody anything until we receive the merchandise, because we don't own the merchandise, therefore we don't owe anybody until we receive it. So even though we have a purchase order, we don't have any inventory, we didn't do any journal entry for that. Now when the boat comes, we need to enter the bill, because now we have the inventory, even though we have not yet paid it. This is when we record the inventory and record the account payable for the inventory that we have now received. So number 1 says click the Receive Inventory icon vendors in the home page, and then select Received Inventory with Bill. So we received inventory with a bill on the top of the box. And so we select that, and now we're going to enter the bill. Notice when we enter a bill, that means that we're going to credit accounts payable. So this means there's a bill that we got something and we have not yet paid for it. Number 3 says select Malibu Sports. So I'm going to type in Malibu, and notice what happens when we hit tab. It says there's a purchase order open for Malibu. Do you want to connect this bill to that purchase order? And of course we do, so we're going to hit yes in that box, and we are going to connect it to this purchase order here. That's the one that we are paying for, or that's the boat that we have now received, and select OK. Then the purchase order will pop up automatically as shown on page 228. Let's take a look at that at this time. OK, type 36 in the bill date, click the hide history arrow, and then press tab. Your screen should look like this. Note the bill due date of 4/5 and so forth. Okay, so the date, we're going to say now it's defaulting to 3/16. We want to make the date 3/6, so we're going to go back in time here like so, and then we'll tab through this and see if it looks like the picture, and it does. Mine does. Mine's right. Okay, so then we're going to say note that the bill due date is that, and save and new. So we're going to select save and new, and we're going to move on and do this once again. So let's go back to our book and let's turn to page 229. Number 10 then says select Malibu Boats from the vendor. Click yes when asked if you want to receive against one or more, and then select the 4005. Select OK, type 3/16 in the bill date. Note that the due date is 4/15, and then select save and new. So let's do those steps. So number 10 says now we're going to type in Malibu again. We received another boat on our porch with a bill attached to it. We're going to hit tab. It's going to say, hey, you know, we have a purchase order out for that. We're going to say, yeah, okay, connect that to the purchase order. Here is the outstanding purchase order for that boat. We will then select it and hit OK. It will then populate this for us. We do need to change the date, however, from the 6th to the 16th in this one, as noted on number 14 in the book. And the rest should be okay. Okay, and this goes to 4/15, so that's our check. And then we can hit save and new and see what we have next. The other boat that we've been waiting on and has just shown up is from Teague Boats. That's the other vendor that we buy our boats from. And so we're going to click Teague. We're going to click yes when asked if you want to receive against one or more purchase orders. Select the purchase order 4006. Click OK. Type 33013 in the bill date, and then press tab. Note the bill due date is 4/29, and then we can save and close, and we'll be done with this part of it. So the other vendor we have is Teague. Teague has also sent us a boat that we have now received. We do need to connect that to a purchase order by hitting yes here and checking off that checkbox there. Then we'll select OK. The date that we want this transaction on is now the 30th, so we will increase this to the 30th, and that will change this date to 4/29 as indicated by number 21 on page 229. Then we can select save and close and move on to the next piece. We are now on the bottom of page 229, where we have a new objective of to record service-related activity on account. So now we're going to click the customer icon in the customer section of the home page. Double-click Buena Vista Water Sports. Click the Payments Setting tab. Change the terms net 15, and then click OK. Alright, so let's do that. Going to go back over here, and we're going to go to the Customer Center. So if you're in the home page, we can be in the home page here. We can then go to the Customer Center, which we could do by clicking this number here. And number 2 says double click Buena Vista. So here's Buena Vista. We're going to just double click on Buena Vista, bringing us to the detail of Buena Vista. Click the Payments Settings. So these are the tabs that are kind of vertical here. Select the second tab, and we want to, number 4 says change the terms to net 15. So we are now changing the terms, which are here, to net 15, and then OK. Alright, we have adjusted that, and we are now on number 5. Says click new customer and job while Buena Vista is selected, then add the job, type 50005 and click OK. So let's do that. So we want to make sure you're on Buena Vista. What we're going to do is add a job number like this under Buena Vista. So it's going to be for the customer Buena Vista and then a job related to this customer. So as that is selected, we hit the drop down up here, add a job. All we need is a job number. That's all we need. So we're just going to put the job number 50005. That's it. And then we'll just hit OK. And there's that job now associated with Buena Vista. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing, looks like, for performance rentals. Number 8 says double click performance, click payments and settings, change the terms to net 15, then click OK. So we're going to go to performance rentals, double click on it, go to the second tab in this vertical tab layout. We're going to go to the terms, change the terms to net 15, select OK. Then we'll go back to the book. And it says click the new customer jobs while you're on performance rentals. Click add job from the drop down. Type 50006 as the job name and then select OK. Close the customer center. Okay, so we're on this one again. While we are on performance rentals, we can then hit the drop down at the top, adding a job. All we need is the job number of, in this case, 50006 as instructed. OK, that's what we need. That job's related to that customer. Now we can close the customer center like so. Okay, what else do we have? We are now on number 15. Click the enter time and then click use weekly timesheet from the employees section. So if we go back over here, what we're going to do now is enter the time. So we're going to enter time here, and this will be like a timesheet that we will put in, and we want to see used weekly timesheet this way. And here's our drop down, and let's see what time we need to enter. So, and then click enter time. Weekly number 16 then says select writer, and then select the week of March 18th, and enter information shown on figure 811, and then select next. Alright, so the drop down, I'm just going to start typing in the name here, hit tab, And notice we're all the way in 2014, and we need to bring it way back to March 24th of 2013. Selecting this, pulling it up here, going way back to 2013. We're looking for March, March, and we want March 24. I'm sorry, 18th through the 20th. We don't want the end of the month. We want the beginning of the month. So it's March, okay, it's like 18th through the 24th. So we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from the 18th Monday to the 24th, which is Sunday. We could adjust these columns if we so choose, and that will work. Okay, so now we're just going to enter the information as shown in the picture. So the first one we're going to apply to job number 50005. And this is a very small picture, but I hope I am picking up the correct numbers. Cleaning here is what we want. And we pay this individual hourly. No notes. And Tuesday was when the work was done. 2 hours. We're going to keep the billable items selected because this is a billable job. Next one, 50005 again, but in this case we didn't do cleaning. What we did is engine tune-up. So make sure you pick the tune-up and not the service. In this case, we still pay hourly. Did this work on Tuesday as well. So we're going to put 4 hours there. This is billable time. Then we have the same job once again, 50005. And in this case, we did engine service. So now we'll pick the service, not the tune-up, the service. And hourly. And this was on Monday. No, this was on Wednesday. 3 hours, that's billable. So we'll keep that. And then the next line wasn't billable. So here's all the hours that were worked that were not billable. So we're going to have hourly. We don't have a job because it's not billable, and that he came in on Monday and did some other work in the office, we assume, and Thursday for 4 hours, and Friday 4 hours, and we have to uncheck the billable in that case because it's not billable. Alright, and then number 19 says we hit next. So that's up at the top. We can then hit next and go back to the book and see what else we have. Number 20 says enter the information shown in figure then in figure 812 and then save and close. Okay, so let's do that. So this is another very tiny figure, but we're going to go back to here, and we're on the 25th through the 31st. That is correct. First item is now job number 50006, and the service is painting in this case. We did painting, did that on Tuesday for 4 hours, as well as Wednesday for 4 hours. It is billable. Same job, 50006. We also did 24-hour or 20-hour service, and that happened on Wednesday for 2 hours. That is also billable. And then same job 50006. We also did cleaning, and that happened on Thursday for 3 hours, which is also billable. And then we had some non-billable hours. So it came in hourly on Friday. I'm not sure he did much, but he timed in the clock there, so we're going to have to pay him on that one for 6 hours. And that adds up to the 19 total, and then we'll save and close on that. Okay, then we're on number 22. It says click create invoice from the customer section. select Buena Vista 50005, and then click Select All 3 employee charges. So what we're going to do now is two things happen when we input that information. One, it's going to be available for us to put into an invoice so that now we can bill our customer. Two, it put information into the payroll for our employee that we will now use in order to pay the employee. So two things happened from this transaction. Notice that we don't need this to happen in order to create the invoice or to pay employees. Many companies don't use this and still use the payroll feature. Many companies might use an outside service to track the same kind of information in order to create their invoices. So this is one way to track that out within QuickBooks, which would tie this out in this format. So number 22 says click Create Invoice. So we click Create Invoice in the home page. And then if we type in the job 50005, the one that this individual just worked on, and hit Tab, it says, hey, we have these items under time that this guy worked on here. Do you want us to include that in the invoice? We do. So we're going to select all, putting a check mark next to all of them. And then we're going to hit OK as instructed. And those items should then appear here. I'm going to hit Tab and read through the rest of it. Number 25 says select 3/18/13 as the invoice date, type 10005 as the invoice number, and then hide the ribbon button. Add the address and tax information provided in 813. Add the tune-up parts, engine oil, filter, invoice shown here. So notice we need to make it look like this. So obviously the hourly stuff popped up already, and then we have to add to it the other stuff that is not on the hourly information, which includes the small items, the small inventory items that we need to put in there, engine oil and filters and whatnot. So now we need to include this information, we need to include the tax, and that should do it. So let's go through here and make this look like the invoice down there. So first we need to change the date to the 18th, like so. Okay. And the invoice number for some reason is 005, so we'll change it to that. And we have all this information. What we need to add then, if we look at the picture down here, I'm going to put my cursor down here, we need one tune-up. Tune-up parts. So we need tune-up parts. One of those, which is 250. Then we need 4 engine oil. $5 each. Then we need 1 air filter. $35. And then we need 1 oil filter. 15. And we need to add the tax down here. So I'm going to hit this drop down. We're going to say this is a state tax item, adding the 119 of tax, bringing the total to 1964.93 as shown in the book. Therefore, I believe we are okay, and we can select Save and New as instructed to do. Actually, they should put the billing here, so it's Buena Vista Water Sports 100 Disney Way, Orlando, Florida 31310. Alright, now save and new. Yeah. And we can then say, number 31 says, select the performance rentals, and you could type in the whole thing, but I'm just going to type the job number, and of course that job number is tied to this customer. From the customer center, select all, click options button, and select transfer item description, and then click OK. Type 326 and then type 10006 and the invoice number, save and close. So we'll do the same thing for the next job that we had, which is 50006. So notice if I type that in there, it's related to performance rental, but you want to type the job in there. And all this stuff now pops up. We're going to say select all. That's all the information that we put in there from this client. Select all, click options button, and select transfer item description. And then we want to transfer item description, okay. And then click OK in the options button. Now click OK in the choose billable time. Okay, alright, so there we have it. Alright, if we tab through here, we're going to say we want it to be on the 26th, like so. And the invoice is now correct. That is correct. And we should look like the invoice on page 232, which has an ultimate balance of $1,293.98. There it is. So now, if none of this pulled over correctly, if some of this did not pull over correctly, just type it in here just as is. Just type for quantity, blah, blah, all through this, because something must have happened between the timesheet and the invoice. That doesn't block you from making the invoice correctly. Just change the invoice, and we will do the same to the time for the employee in the payroll too if we have to. So that's how that can work. So you can just manually input this if there are any problems with the link from the time entry to this invoice, and we'll now hit save and close. Alright, going to the next page. We just saw an invoice that looks like that, and we are now on the second box, which says to record a cash sale and deposit cash receipt. So click create sales receipt from the customer section on the home page. Click the add in the customer job. Type Sonia Garcia as both customer and company name. Type 3/12/13 as the date and 6008 as the sales number. There's the check number, and we're going to have 1 MV as the item, 1 item, and then we're going to add sales tax to it. And let's do that. So that's where we will stop off. So number 1 on page 232, second beige box says click create sales receipt. That's going to be this one. So this customer just came into the store and just bought one of our boats that are on the store. So this is a good deal for us. We're going to say create sales receipt instead of an invoice because the sales happening at that time. So we'll select sales receipt. Number 2 says we're going to have new in the customer job. So we could just type the name in there and hit tab, or we can hit the drop down and go to new. And here's the information. The person that came in is Sonia Garcia. And we'll just type 031213 here. It's Sonia Garcia. Alright, it doesn't give us the address, so we'll just keep it at that. So I'm going to hit OK. Tab through this and say the date is going to be the 12th. Like so. That's the correct numbers. That's good. Paid with a check. Check number being 8593, so that's good. Check is what was paid with. And what was purchased was an MV tab. So it's a bribe. It's a $48,000 sales price. One of those was purchased at our store. And we do need state sales tax. So I'm going to click this guy down here and state tax. So the boat was 48 and we have sales tax of another $3,112 because it's 6.5% sales tax. And we can then click save and close. And then we'll select yes. And when this pops up, we're just going to add those because remember it's our spell check basically. We want to add those because it's a name and it doesn't recognize the name. So click record deposit from the banking section of the home page. Select the deposit shown and type 3/12 at the deposit date, save and close. Now, of course, Sonia just gave us a check that we collected here. We're going to run right to the bank with that, 40-some thousand dollar check and deposit it. So we're going to go back over here. We're going to hit record deposit. And here's the record deposit window. We're going to select that. Actually, it was a 51 deposit check. And OK. Now the deposit is here. It is we're going to deposit it into the bank as of 3/12. And there it is. We're going to hit save and close.